nobody, Lordy. Turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy. Turn me round, keep on walking, yeah, keep on talking, Lordy. Marching up the freedom day.
It was the year 1968. Martin Luther King Jr., a legend, a representative for all of the African Americans afraid to use their words, had passed away. He was assassinated. The black community was in riots. Malcolm X had been killed, and now Dr. King. No other leaders remained. The sense of loss was compounded by feelings of pain and anger. King's death had an unprecedented impact on black students, especially those that resided in Rutgers, Newark. In 1969, the Black Organization of Students explored a new form of revolt, a takeover, which led to a protest in Conklin Hall on Rutgers' Newark campus. Black students encountered social injustice, which through the activism of the BOS they hoped to eradicate. The takeover allowed the exchange of proposals that opened the door for black students of the university. On February 13, 1969, Conklin Hall on the Rutgers University campus, located in Newark, New Jersey, was ambushed by over 300 African American students fighting for their educational rights. At the time, it was becoming extremely popular for blacks to protest for the needs they felt they deserved. The protests began when Rutgers Newark Black Organization of Students, known as the BOS, submitted a list of demands to Mason Gross and Malcolm Tabbitt, the campus's top administrators. The demands included enrolling more minority students and hiring minority professors. The university had struggled with fulfilling one of their most important demands, so the members of the BOS marched into the campus's main classroom building at 6:30 a.m., kicked out the security guard, and chained the doors. Stocked with food and water, over 300 protesters said they would remain in Conklin Hall until their demands were met. They unfurled a banner from the roof declaring the building Liberation Hall. The common objective shared between the black student organizations was to compel predominantly white institutions to change their policies and attitudes to accommodate to the needs of a multiracial society. Their feelings of alienation and rage were vented in violent civil disorders. Many called them rebellions. An example of these newfound violent acts was the Watts Rebellion. Following World War II, over 500,000 African Americans migrated to West Coast cities in hopes of escaping racism and discrimination. For many black Los Angeles, California residents who lived in Watts, their isolation in that community was evidence that racial equality remained a distant goal. The 5-day revolt, which involved 30,000 people roaming the streets, engaged in looting for items from local groceries and clothing stores, acquiring what they wanted and needed but often could not afford. Others battled the LAPD, which they held immediately responsible for their poverty and alienation. In the end, the Watts Rebellion took 34 lives. There were 1,032 injuries, nearly 4,000 arrests, and $40 million in property damage. In spite of the protests, the Watts Rebellion did not significantly improve the lives of the community's black population. It's because they used violence. The BOS used new strategies based on black unity, pride, culture, and above all, black power. They reshaped the nonviolence movement. The Black Organization of Students explored a new form of rebellion. They created a series of demands and waited as long as it took until their necessities were met. The BOS exchanged demands and ideas with the administrators of Rutgers, the president, Mason Gross, and the vice president, Malcolm Tabbitt. The Black Organization of Students demands the immediate unqualified dismissal of admissions director Robert Schwab and his assistant C.T. Miller. Whether or not these two men are to be transferred elsewhere within the university is of little consequence to the BOS. We will settle for no less than their dismissal from Newark Rutgers immediately. To which the administrators responded, The university repeats its commitment to its previous statement that the transfer of these men will be made when the present workload has abated, and further that every effort will be made to speed this operation. Miller and Schwab claim they never harassed the students and wished to call their lawyer. As counsel for Robert Schwab and C.T. Miller, please be advised as follows. These men are extremely dissatisfied with the action you have taken and that of the university in transferring them without a hearing. If you are laboring under any notion that this is not the case, I herewith demand an immediate audience with you at any convenient time and place in the presence of my two clients. The black students encountered and overcame many discriminating obstacles. Besides the teachers giving them a hard time, so were the other students. The white students weren't worried about the African American educational rights. They just wanted to get into the school they paid for. There were very minimal African Americans enrolled in the staff, and the black students were considered a small percentage of the school's population. A student population of over 3,000, less than 5% black, in a city which is 65% black, and a county fast becoming 40% black. This is totally disgraceful and unacceptable. Rutgers should and must be no less than 30% black. A start in this direction would be the admittance of at least 500 black students for the 1969 to 1970 school year. But the students weren't the only ones being discriminated for their actions and beliefs. So were Mason Gross and Malcolm Tabbitt, the heads of the school. They received threatening mail saying, "I demand that you resign from your position immediately," simply because they were allowing black students into Rutgers, which wasn't ideal at the time. Dr. Mason Gross, as a member of the New Jersey legislature, please count on my total support of a firm resolution of the present unrest at Rutgers. 100 students have no right to disrupt the education of 3,000 earnest scholars. Even some alumni were displeased with the actions taken at Rutgers. With all my heart, I want to be able to call Rutgers University my university. Please don't make me ashamed. But with the bad, bring some good. Gross started to receive letters of recognition for the way he handled the situation. A resolution was passed in support and appreciation of Dr. Mason W. Gross, president of the university, for his handling of the Rutgers-Newark crisis. We commend him in particular for his deep concern and responsible behavior. Even though Gross did what he felt was right, he was mocked by many, being titled Nobody of the Year, and cartoons depicting him as a coward and a dunce. It is men like you who are helping to destroy what was once a wonderful country. Just like the black organization of students, Mason Gross and Malcolm Tabbitt had to be prepared for different opinions.
The lessons learned from the Conklin Hall takeover, the liberation of Conklin Hall. Well, first and foremost, discipline. The students hung together. Their list of demands were well articulated. They negotiated in good faith with the administration, and I think it's fair to say that the administration, in good faith, negotiated with the students. Most importantly, there was no vandalism. There was no bloodletting. Certainly, you know of other student demonstrations which did not go as well. I always think of Kent State, or I think of what happened over in New York with Columbia University, or the killing of a black student at the campus of the University of South Carolina State University. But this demonstration, as I said, was disciplined. It was well planned, it was strategically minded, and the students not only did not vandalize the building, but they left the building to take their negotiations with the administration to a higher, more proper level.
The act of the students at Conklin Hall symbolized an era of change and sparked a new hunger for justice within African American students around the world.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours.